What is up, my friends? We are back with the Anfield Agenda podcast, episode number 2. Delighted to say I'm joined as always by Mr. Steve Bland and Mr. Chris Stonage. Steve, we'll start with you. How was the holiday?
Yeah, it was good, thank you. It was 2 weeks of chasing around a couple of 2-year-olds around the Caribbean, but you can't complain. There's worse places to go with a couple of 2-year-olds.
Absolutely, but I do have some sympathy for you on the flight. I know that pain it is, and I
Oh,
don't know it with two. So to be fair, I've only had one child at a
yeah.
time, but it was difficult.
You know what? It wasn't my pain. The pain was mostly the people around us, to be honest. It was a little bit painful for us on the way there, particularly, but yeah, I felt for the people on the way back that were trying to get some rest, and they had these two kids just bombing up and down the aisle for 9 hours continually. So yeah, it was a bit
You know what
testing,
I
but
love
it
though?
was good
You
fun.
know when you're in the airport and you're going through the security and you catch eyes with another parent with 2 or 3 kids, and you're just like,
Yeah, yeah. I
I
know.
know.
Oh, geez. Yeah, security was a lot of fun with them as well. They don't have much of a sense of humour, security people, when they got kids running around through the scanners and
No.
stuff. It's pretty testing. But anyway, look, that's all the challenging side. It was a really good trip. Yeah, loads of good memories, loads of brilliant things. So yeah, a lot of fun.
This really feels like a really sensational episode, Chris, because Steve's just back from the Bahamas and we've got you over in Saudi as we speak.
Yeah, I know. Jet setting, isn't it? It's a proper international podcast we've got going here, isn't it? It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah, just chilling out in Jeddah, ready for the Saudi Arabia snooker masters. So yeah, it's gonna be great. Just flown over from Shanghai as well, so it's all just a bit mental really at the moment.
Yeah, jet set, mate. What's the weather like?
Very hot, dry heat, but it's actually because we've been to Riyadh before, and that's like crazy hot. This is like a little bit less. It's about 37 rather than like
Yeah.
40,
Nice.
43, so we're all good.
He was boasting
Nice.
earlier on, Steve, he's going to go up and play a game of paddle in a few minutes. I'd love to see that in 36 degrees.
Is it possible for people to play paddle and not want to tell the world about it?
Paddle is amazing. It's the best sport in the world. Honestly, we should make this the paddle agenda, I think. It's a fantastic sport.
It's like open water swimming. If you do it, you've got to tell everyone about it.
And if you're vegan.
Let's be honest,
Yeah.
paddle's just for people who aren't good enough to play tennis. Come on, let's be honest.
It's wild. All of our players at Sale are into it. It's gone a bit mad, hasn't it, the last year or two?
I think Kloppo's son opened one in Liverpool as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
He loves it, Jürgen, doesn't he? It's the sport of champions, that's what I'd say.
Speaking about Liverpool, we should probably get talking about them, gentlemen.
Talking about it.
Obviously, yesterday was a real treat for everybody. Back-to-back games against Athletic Club Bilbao, and there's only one place to start, Steve, and that is with young Rio Ngumoha, who is absolutely sensational.
Oh, he's absolutely wild, isn't he? And I think the best thing about him is he doesn't look 16. Yeah, the way he plays, if you said he was in his early 20s, you'd believe him, wouldn't you? Or you believe whoever was saying it, because he just looks so mature on the ball. I love his goal. He actually sort of brushed someone off, didn't he? Like, he's like, get off, no, I'm having this. And he like, there wasn't even, the biggest thing with kids sometimes is the bravery. They can be you have all the talent in the world, can't they? Some of them. We know they're talented because they get to that level, or get to any level of football, professional football. If you're 16, you're a good player. But it's the bravery, isn't it, to get on the ball, to command the ball off these big established internationals you've watched growing up as a kid, and you're saying to them, "Give me the ball because I want it." And then you're willing to actually, try stuff. You're willing to beat people. You're willing to have a go, rather than just do the safe thing all the time. Which, as a kid in this country, we're always told do the basics well, aren't we? We're told, play the way you're facing, play your short passes, do the simple things. And some kids come along sometimes and just look like they could do the simple things fine, but they're going to do it all as well. And he just looks like that. There's been a few, haven't there, over the years, like Raheem Sterling. I can remember watching him when he was 16 and he came through, and he was exactly the same. Some of these young lads they're brought up in a different way to what kids were around when I was younger, and it's just it's brilliant to see. And I've got no doubts he'll play in the Premiership this year.
Well, yeah. Chris, it took him too long, mate. It took him nearly 2 minutes to score in front of the clock on his debut at Anfield. I mean, I don't know what all the fuss is about, really, Chris.
I know, mate. I know. He needs to get a move on, doesn't he? No, it's you know what, but it's really, really encouraging. Okay, because I think we all knew of his talent. He played a couple of games in the FA Cup last year. Really, really highly rated at Chelsea in the youth system there, and obviously we know they've produced so many in recent years. The whole Cobham setup, and I saw a load of noise coming out of there. People saying that this kid is one of the best, if not the best, to come out of there in recent years. And I think he's slowly proving that. It is a friendly. I'm trying so hard to not get over the top excited, but when's his Ballon d'Or? Like, when's it going to come? The way he was taking players on, I think we spoke about him in the last podcast. I said, probably needs to beef up a little bit. It almost seems as if like he not that he has already, but that he has got, as Steve said, the physicality of maybe a 20-year-old rather than a 16-year-old. I still think there's going to be loads of bumps in the road, and I think we've got to be really, really aware of that. But I think he'll do more than just be an option in the Premier League. I think he'll be on the bench and regularly coming off it. He's that good.
Well, that's exactly what I wanted to ask both of you, Steve. Do you think, with Luis Diaz obviously having departed since we last spoke, that this is an absolute show of faith from Arna that, yes, you can come in and compete with Cody Gakpo?
Probably not quite there. The Premier League is such a step up, isn't it? And like Chris said, it was a friendly. We do have to. These are all pre-season games. We do have to slightly temper our excitement. And I mean, we're talking about competing with an experienced international player there that's won the Premier League. I think he's a bit off that, and I think the way we're going to set up the season is actually like really interesting. It was quite obvious, wasn't it? Last year there were sort of 2 left wingers, 2 right wingers, and 2 centre forwards, and you could sort of see it quite easily. There weren't, there was a few, a couple of lads. Diaz could play in the middle, Chiesa could play on the left or right. Like at push, there was a bit of versatility there. But now, like you've got, Wirtz that could play as a false 9, as a 10 off the left. You could probably play a bit deeper as well. Gakpo, we know, can play left or central. There seems like there's loads of options. Ekitike, no one really probably knows enough about him to know exactly what he's going to be, whether he could be, play off the left, or whether we're looking at maybe a front 2. Like there's just loads of ways of looking at these these front players, and I'm with Chris. I think like probably the best that he should probably expect, unless he comes on in a couple of games and absolutely tears it up, or the best. We're probably talking about someone that is an option off the bench at best, and I think that's okay for a 16, 17-year-old, isn't it? That's okay.
Not
like
we don't. It's not the worst thing in the world.
We don't need much more than that off him.
I guess, Chris, for me, I'd be just wondering about the sheer number of bodies at that point then, because obviously Darwin could be moving soon. We've lost Diogo tragically. We've just sold Luis Diaz, and we'll move on to speak about that more in a moment. But if we're not considering Rio as even the backup to Cody from a legitimate standpoint, are we leaving ourselves a little bit short then numerically, even allowing for a potential Isak or somebody like that?
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I think if we definitely weren't considering Rio, then we would definitely go and get Isak as that 9. And I still think that's definitely going to happen, and I'm sure we'll speak about that in a bit. I don't think we will leave ourselves short. I think I hate to look at this numerically, but realistically, Diaz has gone. Say Ekitike comes in, Rio's come in. Obviously, we've tragically lost Diogo, and say Darwin goes as well. That's 3 in, 4 out, isn't it? So I think we had 6 forwards last year, and I'm not guaranteeing. We can't guarantee Chiesa's going to leave, and I still think he could be a viable option if he does stay or if he does go. So yeah, I think we'll be absolutely fine, to be honest, unless we have sparked an injury crisis. I don't think we need anything more than what we already know will probably happen. So
for me, Steve, it's easy to get carried away with Rio for obvious reasons, but the one that really catches my eye is Trey Leone.
You don't get carried away about stuff, do you? That's not...
me, Steve. Just calmness personified, no exaggerations, nothing. Just straight to the point.
Everything very measured. Very measured.
But on that, I'm ready to sell Gravenberch now and put in Trey Leone.
Oh, geez. Look, you could kind of just pick up and drop what we've just said about Rio, about him, couldn't you? A little bit, to a degree. Like he probably doesn't have and isn't going to have the kind of the headline, the highlight moments that wingers and forward players get. But he's obviously a really talented boy. He needs about another 10 kilo, 15 kilos on him because it looks like you could snap him in half. It looks like he'd blow over if the wind got a bit strong. But he's certainly got an awful lot of talent. Again, I've seen. I flew in late from the Bahamas last night, so I haven't seen all of the game. But I've seen a fair few bits and bobs of the two games, and Gravenberch looked like, from the bits I've seen, he's as good as he was last year. And I think we're going to see him just elevate his game again this year. Again, well, I hope so. Anyway, so probably not a viable option again for him. We're probably looking at another couple of years. I would say centre midfield, you need a bit I feel like you need a bit more physicality. Probably is a bit less suitable for a wiry teen than playing out wide. So, yeah, I'm probably willing to give him another couple of years.
For you, Chris, do you see maybe Arna looking at him as, again, like Steve said, maybe a longer term backup to Ryan Gravenberch? And are we short in that area of the pitch, even allowing for, of course, Endo being able to play there? It's a very different way of playing the role, I feel.
Yeah, 100%. Like we were used to the Fabinho destroyer beforehand, the Lucas Leivers of this world, the players who are there to break up play, whereas Gravenberch is actually, he is that, but he's also so much more. And what we will easily forget is that he's only, 23, 24 years of age. He is phenomenal, the way that he's developed into this sort of elite number 6 out of nowhere and out of necessity, because we didn't get Zubamendi in the end. And I'm really happy that happened because, like, look, we've got this Fabinho, like, hybrid with Paul Pogba sort of at his best, the player who can bring the ball forward, who can dribble, who can pass, who can shoot, who can do everything. And having that in that area is really good. I think there is similarities with Trainioni. I actually thought potentially he could play further forward in his career. I didn't have him down as that. But the only issue he's got now is look at the competitiveness and the age profile of the midfield. Like, none of them are old. None of them are pushing, apart from Endo, like, they're all going to be there for a while, unless, I don't know, Real Madrid comes knocking with 150 million quid. Like, there's no way that any of them are going to go away. Szoboszlai's 25, 26. McAllister the same. Gravenberch is young. You've got Florian Wirtz who can drop in. Like, we're in a really good place in the midfield. But as Steve said, I think Nioni, a couple of years, maybe a loan spell as well, I think would do him good in the Championship, or maybe even lower Premier League. He is really, really talented on the ball. So, yeah, a couple of years. Maybe, and as I said, I'm not sure he is a defensive midfielder. I think he might be playing further forward.
Played out wide a lot last year, didn't he? The games that I saw he often played further forward. I think that's a really good shout, Chris. I reckon a loan spell would be a really good option for him. Just get knocked about by a couple of nasty Championship centre midfielders. Probably wouldn't be the worst thing in the world for him.
That's not a bad shout, to be fair. I think I'm just worried about, again, playing too much football for Gravenberch this season or potential injury. But I guess McAllister could drop a little bit deeper if needs be. And one thing, Steve and Chris, but I'll start with you, Steve, that really stood out to me yesterday was in the second game, how quickly we moved the ball through the line with Szoboszlai and Wirtz. It was night and day from what I'd seen from us in the past. So we were more direct at times with the centre-backs and Trent looking to play balls in, but the speed of thought and mind of Wirtz and Dominic Szoboszlai yesterday, I thought was incredible. Dom was on fire.
I love Dominic Szoboszlai, and I think a lot of people have been fairly quick to kind of put together what they think the 11s are going to be this year, and he's not in quite a lot of them. If you look at McAllister and Gravenberch as being your two deeper midfielders, but I like Szoboszlai. Like, there's no one that runs more than him. I wouldn't imagine. I haven't seen the numbers, but I wouldn't imagine there's anyone who runs more than him. If he adds a couple more goals to his game, I think he literally got everything. But he's another one. So I talked earlier on about the kind of versatility of some of the players. I've seen him watch a couple of Hungary games, and I've seen him play wide left for Hungary and wide right and stuff. So he's got probably 6, 8, 10, if we're going by numbers, like 11, 7. could play in so many positions, and it's going to be so interesting how this season how we fit those pieces of the jigsaw together, because I can't really kind of see how it's all fitting together at the moment. But I've no doubt there's a master plan behind it.
It's going to be really interesting, Chris, to see exactly what Steve has said, what Arna is thinking, how we line up, what tactical tweaks he makes during the games, and being able to see the counter pressing as well yesterday. It was like early Jurgen Klopp days again. I was physically counting as we lost the ball to see how long before we looked to win it back. And it was like when we played PSG, but in reverse. We were just smothering all over them. They had no time on the ball.
Yeah, exactly. It is going to be really interesting. If you look at the players we brought in, they're all incredibly good technically. I'd say that that's not been the case over the before Slot came in. I'd say that case in point is Darwin isn't particularly good technically. He obviously was bought for other reasons, but you look at all these players; they're so adept and versatile and playing different positions. They're all quick as well, which is a really, really big thing for us, I think. If you look at the way I want to sort of look at us and how we evolve is, you look at PSG last year, I think that's our blueprint in the way that we're going to play. You look at the way Hakimi and Nuno Mendes played on those fullback roles, the way that their midfielders sat and dictated play. I think that's it. I think that's us. I think that's what we're going for. And I think we've got the players to do it. Whether, you have Wirtz and Szoboszlai playing together or one or the other. You could even have Szoboszlai playing. We saw him play at right back in one of the pre-season friendlies. Like, you could even play him there if you wanted to. But you've got Jeremy Frimpong, who I thought was really impressive, driving the forward. Like, got so many options. And as I said in the first podcast, I think we've got so many options to change as well, which is going to be interesting to how Arne Slot lines up against different opponents and whether he tweaks it heavily.
Been really unlucky, Steve, to see Conor Bradley unavailable again, because would have liked to have seen what way Arna maybe utilise both him and Frimpong as we've seen before. What are your thoughts on the two centre backs we've seen come in Kirkes and Frimpong?
Yeah, it's interesting, this, isn't it? Because if you go back to like the Fabinho time, when Trent and Andy Robertson like basically spent their time so far forward because they knew they had a midfield, they had Wijnaldum, they had Henderson, they had Fabinho that would literally plug any hole for them, wouldn't they? They were just everywhere, firefighting. We don't have that anymore, and I'm interested to see. We haven't got like a natural defensive minded midfielder at the moment, and I think last year we probably didn't see the fullbacks bomb on as much as maybe we had done. But I think now these two lads are so aggressive in the way they attack. They spend such a long time high up the pitch. There's going to be, the two midfielders we're talking about in McAllister, even if Szoboszlai may be different, but in McAllister and Gravenberch, they haven't really got. They don't really think too much about what's behind them. They're not in the same way as Fabinho. They don't think defensively. So I think there's a bit of a danger, isn't there, in leaving the two centre halves pretty exposed if these two fullbacks just bomb on. So I think that's going to be another interesting thing, like how their game maybe evolves to fit the way that we want to play, where you don't just charge forward the whole time. I think that's Frimpong particularly. I think I saw a graphic of his average position for Leverkusen. I know he played wing back a lot, didn't he? But it's like higher than the right winger. It doesn't go that way, does he? Like, I haven't seen enough of him probably to kind of say what his defending, one-on-one defending is like. But it's going to be interesting to see how they maybe have to evolve their game a little bit, to not be so aggressive all the time.
Difficult one to judge, Chris, from yesterday, because we still haven't seen what I would class as Liverpool's actual back four together in this pre-season. So obviously Canade had a lot of covering to do yesterday, and we know he's used to doing that with Trent perhaps, but it would be nice to hopefully see on Sunday against Crystal Palace the proper back four, so we can get a look at that space that Steve was talking about that's been left evacuated when we're so high up.
Yeah. It hasn't really, we haven't really created the perfect storm yet. I think I don't really know what our first choice back four is. If I'm being brutally honest, I think are we immediately saying Kirkes starts above Robertson? I personally would, but I don't think there will be some concern that, oh, we should probably start with Robertson and then ease Kirkes in. Frimpong will probably play, but I would have argued that Bradley probably would have been first choice to begin with. I share similar concerns with Steve, although I think the way that how physically, like as I mentioned, the physical prowess of Kirkes and Frimpong, they are not only really, really strong, but really, really quick. They are absolutely rapid. And I think that's partly why they've both been recruited, is because of their ability to potentially track back when they need to in desperation, whilst also having their ability going forward. But
that gives me heart attacks for desperate defending. I don't want desperation like tracking back. I want like, the best fullbacks in the world have been attacking, haven't they? They've had that attacking instinct, but they've also known when to sit and how to read the situation of a game where you don't always just have to bomb on all the time. And if you do, you need to have those lads you need to have the security of knowing there's lads behind you that will cover and fill in the gaps and will plug the holes for you. I think we're a bit short of a firefighter in our side at the moment. Maybe a little bit someone who just sees it. Milner would see it, wouldn't he? He'd see what was going on ahead of, before the danger actually happened. He would know what was going to happen.
Yeah, there's still some uncertainty left, but because we haven't really seen, as we keep coming back to, what we would class as our best 11 yet in pre-season, and we're nearly done with pre-season for a whole host of different reasons. We've had makeshift back fours, makeshift centre-back pairings, not even seen Alisson in behind the back four enough as well. So Crystal Palace, what would normally be for me, Chris, a nothing game, kind of takes on a little bit more significance, not really from the result. I don't mind where the Community Shield goes. It's about raising money for good causes, and that's what this game is about. But I am interested to see if this is Arna saying, right, this is what we're preparing for then for Friday night. This is the 11.
Yeah, I'm really keen to see what he does. I think a lot of people give it a lot of stick, but it is nice to start a season with a trophy. It doesn't matter whether it's a Tin Pot plate or whatever, or a Club World Cup or a champion. It doesn't matter. Starting a season off with a winning mentality, actually, I think will really help us. And I think we will see him go really, really strong. I think we owe Crystal Palace one as well. We've had a couple of pretty dodgy results against them recently. And I think he'll just go for it. I think that's gonna be, we have so many options, as we've mentioned, but I think with this Crystal Palace side, there's a lot of uncertainty as well. Go out, start with the winning mentality, and that's all that matters for me.
Right, gents, enough of the sensible talk. Let's get into transfers, the real stuff, the stuff that I live and breathe for. And I want to start off with, I think, an example, Steve, of a good transfer for everybody, which was the Luis Diaz one. Now, Bayern fans may feel a little bit different about this because they're not too happy about the numbers. But from our side, Steve, Luis Diaz left at an age that I'm sure Michael Edwards feels comfortable with a value that I think we all probably feel quite comfortable with. But there is a gap in the squad now, an experience gap in there. But this, to me, mate, was a deal that was always on the cards for this summer, especially with the wages that apparently Bayern were willing to pay him.
Yeah.
How do you feel about it?
I'm of the same opinion. If we use the money for someone to come in, he does leave a big hole. We're talking about Rio earlier on, and if he is effectively the replacement, then I think there is slight a problem there. It feels like a pretty good deal for everyone. You look at the amount of money people are changing hands for this summer. If Alexander Isak's worth 150 mil, then Luis Diaz is worth more than 65. Like he probably 10, 15 million under what maybe he was worth, but he obviously wanted to go. And if somebody wants to go, let them go. And it seems like everyone's pretty happy, other than some Bayern fans that I've seen who aren't particularly keen on a 28-year-old. But I think he'll do a great job for them. So I think he's a really good player. I was watching back the other day some of a YouTube compilation of the goals, and you forget like the number of goals he scored. Well, the number of goals, but also the kind of goals he scored. There were loads of goals with his head. There were There were loads of tap-ins, loads of scruffy ones, loads with the left foot, right foot, some curlers from the outside the box. There was literally every kind of goal, from every different part of the field. And I think he was a really, a really good player. You never got the feeling that he was there for a long time. It was always going to be a good time rather than a long time. But yeah, I'm probably with you. It was a one that kind of suited everyone. Once it became apparent that he fancied something new, and I think Bayern have got a really good player. As long as we put the money towards, whatever it is we're hoping to put the money towards, I'm sure we'll come on to that. But yeah, pretty happy.
For me, Chris, one of the genius parts of this deal, and look, we've been quite good in the market this summer. Thanks, John. Is the sell-on clause, because I think everybody has in their mind that he's off to Saudi in a couple of years anyway. So Liverpool are able to insert the sell-on clause in there as well in the deal.
Yeah, absolutely. To be honest, if it was up to me, and it's not, which is probably a good thing for the rest of the world, I would have really liked to have kept him. I thought his work rate, his ability on the ball and off it, especially more so off it than on it. He was an absolute warrior, burrower, someone who was going to chase and chase and chase. He clearly, he wanted a new challenge, and that's absolutely fair enough. I don't know why he picked Bayern Munich, to be honest. It's just boring, isn't it, going to Bundesliga? I understand that, but just go anywhere else. It's just the most boring club in the world. I'm happy to front that.
I'd say his heart broke when he seen Rashford getting the Barca move, to be fair.
Exactly. You offer him, I reckon you offer him 3/4 of the money, he goes to Barca. I reckon, and Liverpool get the same money, I think he would go. But yeah, look, it's good for us. That has effectively paid for basically Frimpong and Kirkes. So if you look at it that way, that's that offsetted. Or nearly Ekatike. But yeah, no, it's good for him. I would have liked to have kept him, but you can't stop a player who wants to leave leaving. I just don't know why you'd want to leave, to be honest.
No.
I think he just wanted more money than Liverpool were able to give him, or were willing to. And genuinely, like I said, I've no bad feeling about this. I echo both your sentiments about the honesty of effort from Luis Diaz every single time he set foot on the pitch, even when his dad was in that very difficult situation. He still presented, still played, and I have immense respect for him for the work rate and what he did. I just feel it was a good deal all around. Now, one deal that may not be a good deal all around, Steve, that we're very much hoping gets done soon, is a certain Swedish fella by the name of Alexander, who is doing his part, Steve. Let's say that.
Well, I actually disagree with what you just said, because I think it is a good deal all around. I just think Newcastle fans, they are. I think their anger is a pride thing, that they don't like being told that they're not a big club. They feel like they're being bullied by a bigger club. And I think that's the problem. If, I heard there was a Newcastle fan phoning into TalkSport a couple of days ago. I saw the clip on social, and he was saying, kind of what I think, that sometimes you have to accept there's a bigger fish, get as much money as you can for it and use it in the same way. We joke about the Coutinho money, but the reality was it paid for Alisson and Van Dijk, didn't it? And if you can get 140, 150 million for Isak, buy Sesko for 80, whatever they're talking about, and then maybe another couple of players, or one more player, and I think they'll be stronger for it. And I think sometimes you just have to. This is not arrogance here. Liverpool are a bigger club. Like, we won the Premier League. We're a bigger club, and sometimes you just have to accept that. Get as much money as you can. And I think, like I said, the challenge for them is, a lot of their fans would say, well, yeah, that's fine, but we don't recruit well. And remember when Tottenham sold Gareth Bale and bought like 7 rubbish players, and they weren't better off for it. So it comes down to the recruitment on the Newcastle side. But potentially, like I say, it is a good deal for everyone.
Unfortunately, Chris, the news today is looking like the player, Sesko, is leaning towards United. Both clubs have had weirdly bids accepted, even though Newcastle's is 5 million more than Manchester United's. So it's going to come down to the player, and a lot of the reports are suggesting he's very much leaning towards United. But Am I wrong in saying that's the wrong move for him? Putting aside our United Liverpool bias, I just don't get it. Because Newcastle are a club who have ambitious owners, who are in the Champions League. Yes, like Steve said, they've had some trouble recruiting. But if you look at their 11 that they could potentially put out if they had a decent striker brought in, it's still a very good team. And like you both made a very good point about maybe taking that one step back to take two steps forward. And we've certainly been through it with Coutinho and others at the club. Ego definitely is a big part of it. I agree 100% with what Steve has said. But this just feels like it's going to happen. Why prolong the inevitable?
Yeah, and I think the prolonging comes from probably the want of Liverpool to lower the price. I still think I don't think we will pay the 150 million. I still think we'll come out of it maybe 30 million lighter, maybe 20 million lighter, because the player is going to continue pushing, and you do not want to keep a rotten apple. I think we've played it really, really well, and quite sort of a bit dark arts in the way that we've gone about it. I feel like we've clearly briefed the media that there is strong interest and will prepare a record bid. Isak's heard about that. He's pushing his way out. We've gone and got Ekitike as well during that time to stop Newcastle. So then that's angered them. I feel like we've gone about it in quite a clever way. On United, and it might just be my blind bias, but what is it? Like, we can't keep harping back to 20 years ago about these guys. It's a constant graveyard for players. We've seen that over the last 10 years. Like, who's gone there apart from maybe Bruno Fernandes and actually succeeded? Honestly, I'm open to ideas, because honestly, I don't know. It's literally Bruno Fernandes' their only success.
Or got better as a player, or improved as a player. Like no one gets better there, do they?
No.
No one improves their career by going there. Like,
And I don't
absolutely no one does.
I don't know whether that will change under Amorim. I know United are a juggernaut of a club. They're a massive club, probably one of the biggest, if not the biggest in the world still. But they're footballing, their current state is not attractive. So must be the only reason he's going there is for the money. But then I just don't know. I just don't know, Craig. Why would anyone go there?
I've been scratching my head and been getting a lot of abuse from United fans on social media about it. But Steve, I wanted to speak to you you're a PR professional. I wanted to speak to you about a gripe of mine. Now, let's start this conversation by saying we're all hypocrites. We're all hypocrites as football fans. We see a player wanting to come to our club, digging the heels in, we're going, yes, go on, fella. We see it the other way, and we're like, oh no, this is disgraceful. The part that really bothers me about this, Steve, is it always ends up with the player being vilified because the club has to save face. And I just wonder, is there a way, in your opinion, that these type of situations could be dealt with better by clubs?
Maybe. I mean, yeah, there's such competing interests, though, aren't there? That it's so difficult to see how everyone can be friends when it comes to this kind of thing. And actually, the clubs also know that the fans are never going to be happy with a situation like this. So the club has to kind of pay lip service a little bit to the way their fans are feeling, and not look. We know the reality of it. Like Newcastle briefed the other day, was it Craig Hope said Newcastle feel Liverpool might have bottled it or whatever. They feel like they've been like stringing the player. That's absolute rubbish. They're briefing the media that because they're trying to say to their fans, look, we're being bullied here. Like, it's not our fault. Like, our player's walking out on us, and we're trying our best to keep him, but he wants to go. And this big, nasty, terrible ogre of a club is coming along, and they're, unsettling our player. They know the reality of this situation. They know that they do exactly the same. They're doing the same to Wisser at Brentford. Then they're lowballing Brentford to try and get him out of there for half the money that Brentford want. We know the reality of the situation these days is that the players and their agents agreed terms with the clubs way before the clubs have agreed a fee, right? We know that's the reality. We know it happens in every single transfer. So there's a lot of PR going on here. After our first bid was rejected, there was stories on the BBC site, and a few of the journalists said Liverpool aren't going to go back in for Isak. What a load of rubbish, right? we all knew that was rubbish, but Liverpool have to brief that because they're going, well, look, we're being dead respectful here. When they've rejected our offer, fine. We're going to respect their wishes and we're going to step away. When the reality is, they know, the guys at Liverpool know, they know this is going to happen eventually. They know that Isak, is past the point where he can play for Newcastle again. Like, we know that, don't we? That's just a fact.
Do we all agree on that point?
I think we're agreeing
there
on
is
that.
no rescuing this between Isak and Newcastle.
There can't be anything to rescue it. Like, there can't be. He's burnt his bridges. He's made his bed and he's going to try and lie on it. But there's an awful lot of PR going on here, and we know that the guys at Liverpool, Richard Hughes is good mates with Eddie Howe. We know that our owners and their owners get on well from other previous dealings in other sports. Everything will be very, very, very amicable. I've no doubt at board level and whatever, because they all know how it works. It's just the clubs have to play it a little bit with their fans and with the two fan bases who have obviously very, very, very different opinions of it all.
Chris,
where do you stand? Do you think it's inevitable?
I would say it's 95% there. I do think, I genuinely do think there is a way that Isak does play for Newcastle again. I can just see it now, the sort of apology, like, oh, I'm sorry for all my wrongdoing, and I'm going to give it all for my club. But I do think there is that possibility. But Liverpool, I've identified the number one, available striker in the world. They have the money to pay for it, and possibly even more to pay for it from Darwin. I just think all of this is negotiation. All of this is just trying to make it more difficult for Newcastle. I reckon if we put in 150 billion bid tomorrow, it's done. But we don't want to pay that. We don't want to pay that, and understandably, it's a load of money that we're trying to. As I said, it's a quite kind of clever and quite dark way of doing it. The way that we've dealt with it, by playing to the player, pandering to the player, making him not want to be there, and then hoping that he pushes the club to just say, right, well, we may as well just get rid of him now because he doesn't want to be here anyway. We're doing it to save money. That's all. That's the only thing I think that's delaying this deal. But if Newcastle truly stand their ground and don't accept anything under that, then I do think that there's a possibility it might not happen.
I think it's just at a point where we need them to find a forward, and then this all moves along. Personally, but before we run out of time, I want to move on to an area of the pitch, lads, that we do have some control over the situation, and that's centre back. We sold Jarell Kwanzaa, Steve, early in the window, and we all assumed there was going to be a young centre back brought in at that point. What do we think's happened since then?
I mean, we definitely need someone, don't we? I thought Kwanzaa, I said on the last episode, Kwanzaa for me was never going to be at the right level, consistently. Joe Gomez is like wonderful. I love him. He's a fantastic player, but he's made of biscuits. There's a big gap there where we've got lads who can play there, who can do a job. But when you've got a squad the size of ours, with the budget the size of ours, and you're the Premier League champions, you don't have players that can do a job. You have the best available in every position, or one of the best. And yeah, I feel there's a gaping hole, particularly as we touched on last time. Konate's not exactly given us all the assurances that he's gonna be here for life. So yeah, I think there's definitely, they're talking about like another young one, aren't they? Another 18, 19, 20-year-old that can come along. And obviously there was a lad from Bournemouth, would have been exactly that. I think there's, I don't know what's taking so long, because it seemed like it was Mark Gay. It seemed like he was the one, didn't he? And then it's all gone very, very quiet on that front. And I saw Newcastle linked with him. Yesterday. I don't know. I definitely think we need at least one, if not an experienced one and a young one. I think it's an area of the pitch where we are fairly short, I would say.
From speaking to people on the nightly streams, Chris, I think what Steve has said there is probably what I'm getting back as well, which is a young one and an experienced one would be ideal. Now, we've obviously seen Charlie Cresswell linked. We know the Mark A situation. And for me, Chris, I'd be all in on Mark A, because imagine having Marque, Canada, and Virgil as 3 options, Arna could actually rotate properly and rest Virgil up if needs be because of Gay's versatility of playing either side of centre back. I just get the feeling he wants us and he's waiting. That's my gut instinct on it.
Yeah, and again, I think the main issue is we want to get him for a reasonable fee. Realistically, Crystal Palace are in. They don't need to sell him because if you know that he's a sort of consummate professional that would stay and still do a very, very good job. He's that sort of character. But he's on 1 year left on his contract, and realistically, we have the power when it comes to the negotiation for that. So say we want to pay 30 million, we will pay 30 million. They want 40 million. Probably not worth that in terms of 1 year left on his contract. It's a pretty crazy fee to be demanding. I would agree that him and another would be good. I actually would say maybe 2 players of that similar age. I'm not, I don't say that we've got plenty of young players coming through. I think centre back's a position where we need some experience still. Have someone around 23, 24, that sort of age is good. I've seen that Leone guy from Parma being linked. I honestly haven't seen a minute of him play, but
he's only 18 though, isn't he?
He's got a cool name. He's got a cool name. Giovanni Leone's a pretty cool name. So sign me up.
So before we finish up, gents, a couple of quick things. Tyler Morton today agreed and finalised his move to Lyon. £15 million, 20% sell on for Liverpool if he moves on after that. And I just wanted to get your take on, was yesterday Harvey Elliott's goodbye to Anfield? Because again, it felt like it to me. Steve, sorry, we'll go with you first.
Probably, yeah. I'd be sad. I'd be sad if he went because, like the guy loves the club and he's a really, really, really talented player who probably doesn't need to play loads of games to be happy. He probably would be okay with 10, 15, starts in a season. But last year, was it like didn't even start a Premier League game, or maybe one or two?
Like 800 and something minutes throughout the season.
Like really, really, really underused. I felt, for a lad who's got so much talent. And then touching on Morton, good deal again. Like I think I really like him, from what I've seen of him. But as Chris was saying earlier, it's an area where we're really stacked and I've like it always comes back to I'm pretty willing to put my faith in the people that are doing our transfers because they seem to get most things right.
Chris, one thing that kind of stands out to me with Elliott is he should have a pick of clubs at this point. I mean, West Ham were interested. Obviously, Spurs now with the James Maddison situation might come and knock it. If you were Harvey yourself, the Newcastle, Spurs, West Hams, where would you be thinking would be a good fit?
I saw Brighton linked as well. That would be something that I'd be pretty interested in. I think to be honest, I think the situation that he's in, he needs to find himself a club that is going to go all in on him because I think he is good enough to have someone for him to be that star in the middle, to create and to just be the person who everyone plays through. He has got that ability. I would say that sort of slightly lower level in terms of being that guy. He could go and play for Spurs. He could go and play for Newcastle. But if he really wants to go and be that guy, I'd look at somewhere like Brighton. That would be my choice if I was him. But it all depends on who's offering the most money, basically, doesn't it?
And Steve, would you like to see the buyback clause option inserted there?
100%. Yeah, definitely. I mean, it'd be quite a hefty one, wouldn't it? I imagine. Could we probably sell him? Look at 30 or 40 mil to sell him, I would imagine, and then you'd be looking at a buyback of much more than that. So, but yeah, he's the buyback one for Kwanzaa is fine, but I'd be very surprised if there was ever a urgency to activate that. The one for Harvey Elliott, I don't know if Tyler Morton's got one. Has he got one as well? Because I wouldn't rule out him turning out to be. I wouldn't rule out him turning out to be a pretty good player either. With a few minutes under his belt. So, yeah, I love the buyback clause. It kind of means you sort of loaning a player. Yeah, it's a bit like a loan, isn't it? Barca do it all the time, and Real do it all the time, don't they? Have half their, sell everyone all over Europe, and then get a new team because they're all coming back on, on ridiculously low fees. So, Yeah, I quite like. I like the model. I think with him, definitely there's a heck of a player in there if he just gets a few minutes.
Well, gents, time has beaten us again. It's been an absolute pleasure to catch up with you both. We're going to return, obviously, after the Community Shield this weekend, and I hope you both have a wonderful week ahead. Any final thoughts before we finish up, Steve?
Welcome back, Adidas.
Yes, get in. Delighted with that.
It's our childhood, Craig. It's our generation. Like my first Liverpool shirt was Adidas. It was the first candy one, the first red candy one. And
the grey one for me.
80, what was it, 88, 89? 88, 89. That was my first Liverpool shirt. And then I had the grey with the flex, and I love those shirts. So, yeah, the best shirts from my childhood. Welcome back, Adidas.
The grey fleck was my first ever Liverpool shirt from that year, that exact year. Chris, what about yourself? Obviously, you have seen Liverpool in Adidas a little bit later, but feel right?
That was my first kit as well. 0809 Torres, long sleeve, absolutely amazing. And also Robbie Keane on the back as well. That's that silver one. Incredible. So happy. And my bank account has been depleted.
Yeah, as you can see, so was mine. And I make no apologies for it. I absolutely love the three stripes being back with Liverpool. 10-year deal as well, gents. So 10 years to look forward to. Right,
Brilliant.
That is it for this week. But of course, we will be back next week. Thank you all so much for listening and watching. We appreciate your support. And up the Reds. We'll talk soon.